Alright guys, in the last video we spoke about sine and cosine graphs that have a change in amplitude and a change in period. So now, once we're able to find the new amplitude in the period, now we just got to do all of our transformations. So, let me go through the whole process of this. First thing you got to do is figure out what graph we're talking about. What's the basic graph? Next thing, you need to get the new basic graph. New basic graph. And the new basic graph is the graph that has the new period and the new amplitude. Okay, so far so good, right? And then finally, it's just like chapter 2. Now, what I mean by just like chapter 2, now you can do your left, right shift. You can do your flips. And finally, you can do your up, down shift. Okay, so the process is fairly simple. You just gotta make sure you stay mechanical with it. The toughest part will be this new element of actually just finding the new period. Shifting will be exactly the same. It is a bit more work, but if you keep track of everything, you will be okay. So let's get started. So let's say we're trying to graph this creature. Okay, this creature, excuse me, is negative 3 cosine, of course it's fx, I totally forgot that part, cosine of 4x plus pi plus 2. Yeah, it seems like a bit much, but it's not bad, okay? So first things first, what's the basic graph? Yes, you are correct. The basic graph is cosine, okay? It's cosine, so the basic graph will look like this creature. Cosine of x. And then you should already know what this looks like. What does it look like? So this is 1, this is negative 1, this is pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Okay, you should already know it does something like this. Cosine starts high, goes low, goes even lower, comes back up to the center, and then finishes high. Okay, so that's what the cosine is in one period. Okay, obviously it goes both ways. Now, we need to figure out what the new guy looks like. And what do I mean by what the new guy looks like? Well, we have to figure out what he looks like with the new period change as well as the new amplitude change. Okay? Well, this is what you're going to have to do. Okay? And everybody, and this is what the big piece of the puzzle here. See this? This can't look like that. Okay? What you want to do is you want to factor 4 out of this quantity. So you end up getting an equation, and I'll put this in a different color because it's very, very important. An equation that looks like this. You get an equation that looks like negative 3, still the same, cosine still the same, but when you factor out 4, it exposes x plus, and what is this thing here? It should be pi over 4. That's how you're going to get pi. And then plus 2 on the outside. Let me shrink this down after I change my color. Alright, so you get this x plus pi over 4, and then there's just 2 on the outside. It looks the exact same, but you need this because this is going to be your left-right shift, okay? You won't know that unless you factor it out. So you need to factor out, and this is going to be the number that redefines your new period, okay? So, number 2, our new basic. Okay, well, he's going to look like this. He's going to be the guy that accommodates your 3 of an amplitude. Notice it's not negative 3, it's just regular old 3. The negative is what's going to happen when we start flipping. Cosine and 4x. Okay, so we need our new period for this to happen. Our new period, once again, is the old period. So think to yourself, what's the old period of cosine? The old period of cosine is 2 pi. And we need to divide that by 4. Why 4? Because that's what this number is. It's speeding up. So the entire cosine graph now, instead of happening over a 2 pi period, will now happen over a pi over 2 period. That is a squishing down of the cosine graph. Drastic squishing down. Okay? Pretty good. So far, so good. And then we can talk about our subintervals. Subintervals are those little pieces in between those 4 touch marks that we need. Okay, those 4 subintervals are going to occur if we divide this into 4 equal pieces. Divide into 4. We end up getting pi over 8. So that's where they're going to occur. So what does this leave us with? So we have an amplitude of 3. We have subinterval of pi over 8. And when we add 4 of them together, they should add up to pi over 2. All right, so let's graph our new basic. So our new basic graph is going to look like this blob. It's still going to, instead of being 1, this should be 3 up here and negative 3 down here. And check this out. It's going to end with pi over 2, but it should be pi over 8. 2 pi over 8, which is the same as pi over 4 if you simplify the fraction. 3 pi over 8. And then finally, 4 pi over 8. But guys, 4 pi over 8 is the same as what? Take a second to think about it. It's pi over 2. Alright, so what does cosine do? It starts high, comes low, gets lower, comes up, and it's high. That's our new basic graph. Pretty simple. Alright, now we're ready to do some business here. And what do I mean by some business? Finally, now we can do our left-right shift. What's our left-right shift? Well, that is determined by this pi over 4. So we need to shift pi over 4 in which way? Left or right, guys? Well, since it's a plus 4, it's counterintuitive. We want to go in the negative direction. So shift pi over 4 left. Okay, so what this means is every dot you see here, we need to subtract pi over 4 from pi over 8 and go over, go over, go over, go over. So how do I figure this out? Well, you have to do a lot of side work. Okay, so pi over 8 minus pi over 4, because we're shifting everything pi over 4, because I'm just going to keep control of my subintervals, and everything should keep track. So check this out. Okay, 0, which is at 1, now will be negative pi over 4, which will be at 1 still. And that's something. Okay, pi over 8 will actually be right here at negative pi over 8. After you subtract pi over 4 from pi over 8, you'll see that this is negative pi over 8. And that's what I'm going to do. Notice it was at 0, so I'm going to put that guy still at 0. Now, go over another pi over 8, we end up getting 2 pi over 8, right? But if you take 2 pi over 8 and you subtract pi over 4 from it, you end up getting 0. So it should be at 0. That's negative 1. That will be pi over 8. Why? Because that's the subintervals. The subintervals just stay exactly the same. Once you shift it, right, everything should shift back a uniform amount. So this should be pi over 4. So we end up with blobs here and blobs here. So your new graph looks like this creature. Boom. Easy, right? Now that we got this, the equation of this graph will be f of x equals 3 cosine of 4x plus pi over 4. So we only got 2 more things to handle. We got to take care of this negative, and we got to shift up 2. Okay, now what does this negative do? If you notice, it's on the cosine. So this is a vertical shift, an up-down shift, up-down flip, which is what we're going to do next. So an up-down flip, and I'll actually put some color in here and use a graph because I'm running out of space and time, as a matter of fact. Let's use green. If I do a up-down flip, which is controlled by this negative right here, okay, what's going to do is we're going to flip over the x-axis. So that means that this point here should be down here. And this one will be the same. This point now will be up here. This will be back down here. And finally, it'll finish off like that. So that green line is now going to be this equation. F of x equals negative 3 cosine of 4x plus pi over 4. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Finally, we just need to add 2, which means take every single one of these points and add 2. So note, this guy was at 3. If we add 2, it should be up here at 5. If we add 2 to this point, which is at negative 3, it should go up as well. Okay, so let's complete the graph. We end up doing this. I need a clean slate, guys. Sorry. So we end up getting this. Negative pi over 4, pi over 8, pi 0, pi over 4, and pi over 2. And then finally, we get 5, 1. So it should be like something like this. The lowest point should be negative 1, and the high point should be 5.